Well, it's time for another gardening week, and I am back here at the carrot bed where I put those spinach and lettuce a week ago. Since then, I've taken 300 slugs out of this bed. And, obviously that's just not going to be possible without slug pellets. I don't really like to use slug pellets very much, but there are circumstances where they're just absolutely invaluable, and this is one of them, and I'll show you one in another minute. So these are the slug pellets that I use, and I don't know what they are. They are the metahydride ones, or whatever it's called. So the old style ones, where the slugs die on the surface of the compost, and that's how I know how many I've taken out, because they've died or are in the process of dying on the surface. And if you use the modern ones, then they go and sort of die underneath the surface, sort of burrow into the soil, and so you don't know that you've got a slug problem or how extensive a slug problem you've got. So these have an advantage, but obviously you can't buy them anymore. I bought these 7 years ago, and this container's still that full, and so that shows you how many I use. And so I've probably got enough here to last to the end of my gardening life, basically. I just put like a few individual sort of pellets out, and I very rarely use as many as I've had to use on this bed. Anyway, every lettuce and every spinach so far has survived, although some have had a little bit of damage to them, but not nothing particularly fatal. And I've got a few lettuce spare that I can put into this bed if I do lose the odd one, and I've got a few spinach spare as well. So anyway, that is that bed. It's successful. I have just put new supports in for these lids, because previously they were just kind of lying on the branches of those apple trees, and not particularly sturdy, but good enough for now. Let's move on. So this is the old onion bed that I put the low tunnel over last week. I did scatter some slug pellets on here, and I think probably maybe 6 or 7 slugs in this bed, so nowhere near as bad a problem. So I'm happy. I think I can plant out into this bed, and I put a few more slug pellets in here just to protect the plants. And I'm going to put these Brussels sprouts for a summer harvest, well, a spring harvest of leaves and a summer harvest of Brussels sprouts and sprout tops. And then I'm going to put these red cabbages in for, again, a sort of harvest in summer, probably about sort of June, July sort of time. So basically exactly the same time as the Brussels sprouts. So then I can clear this bed and get it replanted in August. I always like having a bed come free in August, probably for my autumn lettuces. So so that'll be a nice timing. I've never actually put these overwintered, well, not actually overwintered yet. These September sown cabbages and Brussels sprouts out at this time of year. I think they'll probably do okay underneath this low tunnel. I think they'll particularly benefit from the roots being in the soil rather than the roots being in these pots where they can easily freeze, even in the polytunnel, if we get a really cold snap. So I'm going to put 4 cabbages in this bed, and I'm going to try and put them sort of towards the side so they can spill over into the path as they mature. And obviously that cover will come off probably towards the end of March, I should think. And I'm going to put at least, I might see if I've got a few more Brussels sprouts, but I'm going to put at least 6 Brussels sprouts in here. Ideally I think I'd put 9 in here. So I'm going to get on with that. So ideally, if I'd done my job right, I wouldn't need to water these, but actually they were really dry in these pots. So yeah, I'm pleased that I emptied them out. So I have to water them. Now I'm just going to close this up and just put a little vent in there, just under an inch, for a couple of days whilst they get settled in, and I'll give them a little bit more ventilation after that. So this was my autumn lettuce bed. It's just got a few turnips in it now, so I'm just going to take those turnips out, and these will keep no problem in the fridge for a few weeks, so there's no point leaving these in the ground, and that means I can get this bed replanted as well. And actually that's a really nice crop of turnips. I hadn't realised quite how nice those were, hidden away at the back there. So I'm just going to take all these scrappy old lettuces out and just twisting them out. And this bed is a little bit dry, so I don't really like watering the leaves of plants at this time of year. But it's okay in this situation because I'm going to be watering the ground. This has had a cover on it for quite a long time. I'm fairly confident there isn't a big slug problem in here because I've been growing lettuces in here and the lettuces have only had a few slugs in them, not enough to really affect the harvest, and all those turnips were pretty clean as well, so I don't need to put many slug pellets in this bed, if any. I'll put a few in just to test to see how much of a problem there is, but as I say, I'm pretty confident. And this bed I'm going to put cauliflowers in, and I'm going to put 2 successions in because obviously I don't want them all coming at the same time. I'm going to put 4 in each of the areas, and just separated by a few weeks in terms of sowing time, so hopefully separated by a few weeks in terms of harvest time as well. In spring we get through a lot of cauliflowers. It's kind of cauliflower season for us because it's when we have space. And then after the cauliflowers, into this bed will go melons. So I've given these beds 20 litres of water each and 40 litres of compost. The compost is moist, but it's not very wet because it's had a cover over it. You can see this is my homemade. It's extremely rough, loads of sticks in it and things, but I like this sort of compost as a mulch. I think it's absolutely fine, especially at this time of year when any weeds that are in it are going to grow slowly. I'll be able to keep on top of them. So I'm hoping that by doing 4 cauliflowers in the bed rather than 5, and starting them out just a little bit earlier and doing them in a low tunnel rather than a coal frame, that I can get them in May, sort of mid-May rather than the end of May, which would be really nice. And I did give these a bit of a water before I planted them, so hopefully they'll be a little bit better. Now some of these are graffiti, the purple ones, and some of them are what are they? can't remember. I'll be able to tell you in a minute. But anyway, these first two that are going in are the graffiti, and these are Orkney, the white ones. And the Orkney are optimised for a September sowing and a spring harvest, and the graffiti are not, so that's a risk, but hopefully it's a risk worth taking. And you might remember that I ran out of pots for potting on, and so now I've got some spare pots, so I've just potted on the next succession of the graffiti into those, so they're looking actually pretty good now. So it might be those, might be some from home that end up getting planted out in the empty bed down there. It probably won't be for a while yet though. I might be leaving it until February before I actually plant the next batch out. I might not, so I love planting, so sometimes I just get carried away. Anyway, I'm very happy with those. Get that closed up and give those a little bit more ventilation because they get pretty hot underneath one of these low tunnels when the sun comes out, even at this time of year. Next up is the bed where we had the radicchio, and I harvested all the radicchio yesterday or the day before, and so now I've got to kind of just prepare this bed for spring lettuces. And in theory these are spring lettuces as well, but honestly the quality of them is not that great. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to take all of these out because I've got enough lettuces to replace this whole bed pretty much. Well, yeah, I've got enough to replace the whole bed. So I think I'll do that, because the smaller the lettuces are when they go into winter, within reason, the better they're going to be, provided they get a few weeks to get established, before light levels drop to the point where there's no growth. So mine aren't quite ready to plant yet, but they probably will be by the end of this week, very early next week. So I'll get this prepared, because who knows what the weather's going to be like next week. And so this bed also is the carrot bed for next year, and I don't generally plant my carrots until May, which means that the lettuces that go in here are going to could last as long as May. So we'll probably start harvesting them sort of, towards the end of March, and then all the way through April, and then early May, the first week or so of May, and then the carrots will go in. And so it's a pretty good and pretty important sowing. But as I've probably said too many times before, if it were to fail for some reason, then I could probably still just about get a lettuce harvest from a January sowing planted out in early February. But if I left it until February and planted out in early March, then I probably wouldn't get a sowing before the carrots. And so that's why it's worth playing these games. So that is looking a lot better actually already. I can't stand scrappy lettuces or scrappy anything really. You do need to know when to cut your losses when you're gardening. In my defence, this bed was really meant to be my autumn spinach bed, so I was meant to be clearing this of spinach at this point in time and replanting it with lettuce, rather than clearing it of lettuce and replanting it with lettuce. But the autumn spinach went to seed, if you remember, because that really hot September, so I had to clear that out. All I had was a few scrappy spare lettuces to put in, and then of course the shade from this tree, crazy weather conditions, lots of slugs and snails and all that sort of thing, just left me with that scrappy crop of lettuce. And now order is restored, and I will be sowing the correct lettuces at the correct time as planned. As I said, sometimes I just get carried away and I can't stand seeing a bed empty, so I plant it with something. Sometimes it works though, and that's all to the good. You have to be adaptable, but this time it didn't. So my final job for today, I think I'm going to take this carrot net off. I think it's late enough now, there's no real issues with carrot fly. And there's not many carrots anyway left in this bed. And I want to get it cleared of weeds. There's a lot of weeds in it, more weeds than there are carrots. Well, I've not been on the allotment for a few days, apart from popping down just to take this fleece on and off. It was -5 in here last night. And you know, that's pretty close to the minimum that it's been ever in here. I think we did get down to sort of -8 last year, but certainly it's the coldest that it's been this year so far, including January. So yeah, I don't really know whether it's worth putting the fleece on. I suspect it is. It always seems to me that the plants grow a bit stronger when they've been protected with fleece on these really cold nights. And it's not too much hassle for me just to pop down to pop it on. And I did manage to swap the insect netting for this fleece as well, where I planted these cabbages down here. I've not planted all of them yet, I've just done this part here, and I think maybe, as I said earlier on in the video, I probably won't do the rest of them until about February time. So yeah, I always generally try to close all of these beds up when it's really cold, like -5. Yeah, most things in here seem to be pretty happy. I put my little seedlings, take them down off this shelf here, and put them under the fleece as well. That just helps. But I don't fleece this side, because this side seems to be hardy enough anyway, the Asian greens and the Claytonia and stuff like that. But I did do one of my celeries and not this one, and I think that one definitely looks quite a bit healthier than this one does. So probably that was a good idea. Lettuces up here all seem fine. And then in the morning I'll just open them up with a couple of inches, just to give them a bit of ventilation really, just for a few hours. Yeah, I don't do much gardening on a day like today. I'm normally out hiking, cycling and whatever, but I'm just having a bit of a rest day today. So I'm going to record some videos and just have a walk around the plot, have a chat to some people, and that'll be me done. Now, we are away this weekend, and so I'm not going to be doing a harvest, so I'll call this video to an end. My name's Steve, this is the Seaside Kitchen Garden and Allotment channel on a very frosty Thursday morning. I'll see you soon.